My name is Sharud, and I'm the founder and CEO of Acute Health, and we're one of the sponsors of the Hint Summit. And I just want to talk about the lean startup. The reason why is I don't think it's discussed enough. There's a lot of talk here about how to market and how to get employees and how to grow your practice. But the lean startup is more about how to validate your business, how to operate your business, how to manage a company, right? So I did not come up with a lean startup. It's a well-known methodology. The author is Eric Ries. You can look him up and read his book. But I just like the titles, catchy. So I'm not going to strictly adhere to the lean startup principles, but more just talk about how do you run a lean business. Why should you listen to me? I have never run a medical practice, and you guys all have run medical practices and have experience with it, and I'm not a doctor either. The quick answer is you shouldn't listen to me. You should listen to a lot of different people, take in a lot of different opinions, and use all of that information to form your own opinion. At the end of the day, this is your business, and you should run it the way you want to run it. But I'm the founder of Acute Health, and I'm passionate about healthcare, and it's a bootstrap company, so I think we have some parallels we can agree on. So I'm going to kind of talk about three main principles. So the first is you're a business owner now. And you may be thinking, I'm a what? You're no longer only a doctor. And so what does this mean? There's a lot of talk about how you're now offering this great patient care that patients have been clamoring for, they've been wanting for so long. And that's great, but how do you get those patients in your door? How do you get them to schedule an appointment with you? How do you get them to register? How do you get them to pay? How do you get them to navigate around your website? And how do you even get them to your website? Okay, these are the kinds of questions you need to be asking yourself as a business owner. Your comfort zone is probably to focus on how to be a great doctor. What tools do you need to have? How long should the appointments be? What types of services should you offer? How do I design the space to make patients comfortable? But this is all presuming you have patients, right? So patients are going to your website because they have a problem and they're looking for a solution. At the end of the day, you are a solution to a problem. And you have 5 seconds maybe to capture their attention when they're on your website and keep them on your website. So how do you capture a patient's attention in that short of a time? Well, I don't really know. I haven't run a medical practice. However, consider patients there to solve a problem. Tell them upfront on your website in simple copy how you can solve their problem, or if you can solve their problem. And don't get me wrong, this is really hard. As an engineer, I have to fight really hard not to talk about how much better our tech is at Acute Health and how we have open APIs and how we use Fire and how our server response time is sub 200 milliseconds and all these things. Okay, and don't get me wrong, they're super valuable, but I can guarantee less than 5% of you probably care about what I just said. So instead I talk about how, we're an EHR, that's a new EHR. It's focused on the direct care movement, and we provide great task management and workflow automation. And we want you to be on the journey with us and giving feedback, understanding there may be issues, but being willing to help us through that and have strong opinions about the future of the product. And maybe that turns a lot of you off, but maybe it piqued interest of 5 to 10% of you. And that's enough as a small startup, right? So you could say something about how you focus on these common ailments and common goals. And maybe you're thinking, well, I can treat so much more than that. I'm sure you can, but right when you're trying to be everything to everyone, you're in fact portraying that you're nothing to no one. So you start small, focus on a niche, and grow from there. You can always change the copy on your website. You can always expand your target audience, but you have to start somewhere. You have to start getting patients. You have to start collecting revenue. And by focusing on a niche with simple website copy, you can start that much quicker. And by focusing on a smaller audience, you can spend way less, if nothing, maybe, on advertising. And finally, as a business owner, you may have to hire people. And again, it's about this mindset shift as a business owner versus being a doctor. When you hire people, it's not just about, what tasks can they perform, or what should they perform, but how can you get the best out of your employees? And so the whole point is you're an entrepreneur, you're a business owner, you need to switch your mindset from being just a doctor to also being a business owner. So the next principle of the lean startup is you're embarrassed by your website, your marketing, location, and lack of patience, you're the real MVP. So MVP here is not most valuable player, but instead minimum viable product, or in your case, maybe minimum viable practice. So what does that mean? It means launch the minimum viable thing you can to start getting patients in your door, or start getting patients at all. So for those of you who are not open yet, not launched yet, why? What's stopping you from seeing patients today? Okay, maybe today is the Hint Summit, but what's stopping you from seeing them next week? Are you waiting for your website to be done? Just make a simple single page that says your name, your focus, your price, and like an email sign up. You can do all that in one day and just add the rest of it later. Like, you don't need any of the rest of it to get one patient. Are you waiting for your physical practice to be complete? Don't wait, especially in time of COVID. Find patients online, connect to them, do house calls, do phone calls. You can start doing that today. Are you waiting for your liability insurance? Okay, maybe you wait for that, but get it done quickly. Like, get all of those things that you have to do out of the way so that you can focus on getting patients in the door and learning and iterating. And the reason you want to do that quickly is you want to start the learning process as soon as possible and as fast as possible. So what does it take to get a patient? You can learn, what does it take to get a patient? How can I get them to refer their friends and family to me? What kinds of patients will keep their memberships and which ones will cancel? You can't learn these things if you're waiting to launch. You cannot learn them if you cannot learn if your website is good or not, if you're not actively trying to convert patients on your website to being paid customers. So you got to start somewhere and iterate from there. Now that you have some patients, don't wait to ask them how they like your practice, right? Get feedback as quick as possible. Ask them after their first visit, do you think you'll keep me as a doctor? Ask them again a month later, how are you liking the services we provide? Will you renew your membership? Keep asking, and if you wait until they cancel their membership, it's too late at that point to learn and to iterate and find out if you could have retained them. And you may think, well, I need 6 months for them to know if this value is what they want, right? To truly understand the value of my clinic. And maybe that's true, but more likely the reason you're saying that is you're scared of what they're going to say, right? And that's okay. That's a perfectly valid feeling to have, but it should not stop you from getting quick feedback from your patients and learning whether they like the service or not, and how you can iterate your practice and provide better value to patients. And the last principle I'm going to focus on is I'm going to let you finish, but can you bill my insurance? Okay, so that's not really a principle, but I think it's funny because really the principle is setting goals and pivoting and iterating based on those goals. But if you're here at this DPC DPC Summit, you likely do not want to bill their insurance. And as you start getting patients, you'll probably have some patients come in and say, I'm learning so much from you. I'm growing as a patient. I'm getting healthier. But can you bill my insurance? And so I was saying earlier, you should, listen to your customers and iterate, but you should not listen to all your customers. I presume if you're not wanting to bill insurance, if that's your goal, then stick to it. The customer is not always right unless, at least they're not always right for you. And, when you're just starting, it's really tempting. You're struggling to grow. You only have a small number of patients. This maybe is a good patient and it's just a one-time thing to bill their insurance. Well, it's probably not a one-time thing, right? Usually they'll ask you again, or they may write a review on Google saying, this is amazing, doctor, great service, well worth the price. And she was able to bill my insurance, so it ended up being free. So now you get a flood of patients who want you to bill their insurance. So as a business owner, I know this is very hard. You want to take any customer you can get, but the reality is It's okay to say no to your customers. And even say, maybe I'm not the right doctor for you. When I'm doing demos with potential customers and I can tell they're not going to be a good fit, I recommend my competitors to them. At the end of the day, both I and the customer will be much happier for it. And so you do want to make sure you're tracking towards the growth of your growth goals, because you don't want to be stuck in the phase of 5 to 10 patients for like 10 months, right? So, and if you keep saying, next month it's going to be different, next month's going to be different, most likely it won't. So you need to decide, how quickly do I want to grow? How often do I want to check that I'm meeting that growth rate? And what will I do to change my strategy? And so the final point is, like, if you open, they will come. If you build it, they will come. That's false, unless you're like a big brand name. So you're not going to get patients on name recognition alone. You have to get out there. You have to try different patient acquisition strategies. You have to have goals. You have to continuously iterate if you're not meeting those goals, and try different things and see if you can get patients that way. So that's the end of my talk, and one does not simply end a presentation without Q&A. So if there's any questions, I think Bailey is moderating. I'd love to hear them.
Awesome presentation. The memes alone were fantastic, but the content.
When you make a presentation at night.
It was fantastic. No, we all loved it. And the content itself, the insight you provided, incredibly valuable. So I did pick up a couple of questions from the chat. One of them being, do you recommend a month free trial as an incentive?
I mean, so again, this is like up to you how you want to do it. In general, I found that trials tend to not work, because then you're not really testing, is this something the people want, right? You're not solving a hair on fire problem for them if they're wanting it to be free. If you get them and they're willing to pay for it, then it's a much better fit customer, and you can learn a lot better from them. So if you're getting free trial patients, they may be have different goals in mind than what you're wanting. One thing you could do is say, like, pay 3 months up front, but you get 2 months, like a 1 month free. So you pay for 2 months, but you get 3 months, something like that.
Yeah. It seems like people really want to pick your brain on recommendations too. One other quick question before we have to jump. Any recommendations on how to survey your patients about their view of the practice?
I mean, NPS score is a really great one. I mean, that might be better as you get bigger. It's like a super simple thing, like how devastated would you be if we were no longer available? But it's really nice because it's a simple 1 question thing.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's a good one. I would say ask your colleagues probably is better than asking me.
Yep. And the last question, probably the most important, the audience wants to know where they can get an Akute t-shirt. So if you can share that at some point, it seems like there are a lot of folks that want that as well.
Yeah.
But again, thank you so much. Again, incredible session.